I've been using Laravel now since late 2013, I guess. So quite a good chunk of time. I guess 10 coming up 10 years.
Yeah.
I was actually a Code Igniter and Expression Engine user before I started using Laravel. And I actually was at an Expression Engine conference, and one of the speakers started talking about, I don't understand or remember why this topic came up, but he started to talk about how he was putting some kind of Frankenstein project together by linking WordPress with this newfangled framework, which was called Laravel. Yeah, previously I think it was running on Forge. There isn't that much queuing, so I probably was using the database queue driver at the time. Because it's Slack need the response back, a response back straight away for you to confirm that you've received the webhook. So typically everything happens in the course of 1 minute. It will be my second time in India. I've been once before to Mumbai. Wow. And had a great time. I thought it was kind of a work-related trip, so I spent most of the time taking meetings in the hotel. But when I did get out, it was just an incredible experience. Such a cool place. I just have very kind of striking memories of all of the kind of smells and colours that India has to offer.
Yes.
So that was very cool. And yeah, with regards to Laracon, I'm absolutely blown away by the fact that they've sold now, I think, over 1,000 tickets. Exactly. So I'm very excited to meet the kind of Indian community and kind of immerse myself in the culture for, I think I've got the best part of a week in India. So yeah, incredibly excited for that.
That's really good. So you said you have just finished the Laracon EU, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So any good memory of Laracon EU you want to share?
To be honest, the whole thing was just amazing. It's been, I think, 3.5 years since I was last at a sort of in-person conference. So even just that was just so nice to get back to seeing people again and seeing some kind of new faces, meeting new people, but also catching up with some friends that I haven't seen for that amount of time. It was great to see Jeffrey Way was there speaking, so it was great to see Jeffrey. I think it was his first time speaking at a conference for maybe 6 years. So I feel fortunate to have seen him there. But all of the talks were incredible and just such a great atmosphere. I think everybody was just so happy to be back out and about again.
Okay. Have you seen the speaker list for Laracon India?
I have, yeah.
So which one you are excited about from the Laracon India speaker lineup?
I think Shruti I'm excited to see. I think I haven't seen her speak before. I think she's going to be amazing. Obviously Taylor's going to be there, so it'd be nice to see him speak again.
Obviously.
But yeah, I mean, I just love being at a conference, so I think even speakers I haven't seen before and I don't know that I'm excited to see, I'm just often blown away by how kind of polished and how well people are able to speak.
Right. So you said you were there in India before. Which year it was, like when you were on Mumbai?
2016 I went. I think my firstborn daughter was just 6 months old, so I had to leave her for the best part of a week. But yeah, it was a great time.
So any moment you have you remember from that trip? Any funny incident?
I mean, it's probably not a funny incident, but it's kind of strange for me that I went out on a tuk-tuk ride into Mumbai and just kind of all of the traffic there was just traffic chaos everywhere, and that's a memory that kind of sticks in my mind as something that was kind of very different to what I'm used to.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so that's really good. I hope when you will be here, you will have much more great and grand experience this time. And obviously, since every Laravel people will be here for the first time in India, all the community member, the core team member, even Taylor Otwell will be here in India. So everyone is really excited, and we are more than happy that all of you guys are coming to India, and we are ready to welcome you all. So it's really great. Joe, so let's move now to something really amazing. You are a contributor at Laravel IO, right?
That's correct, yep.
Okay, so tell me about like what is this Laravel IO is, and how you become the contributor, and what is actually mean by the having like title of contributor.
Yeah, so Laravel IO has been going for a long time now. Kind of started as a community forum for people to get help. I guess it was maybe even before the days that Laracast exist and the Laracast forum.
Oh, right. This is really
More
great.
recently, it's been, I mean, probably not that more recently now, given by how quickly time goes by, but it was taken over by Dries Vince, who's another one of the Laravel core team members. And I met Dries back in 2019 at Laravel Live UK, a conference based in the UK. And I met Dries over dinner, and I got talking to him about, actually, I think one of the guys from Refactoring UI had done a screencast taking the Laravel IO homepage and converting it or adapting the design using some of the tips and tricks that they'd been kind of showcasing on Refactoring UI. And so I spoke to Dries and said, would you mind if I implemented that homepage? Because at that point it hadn't been done. And that was really when I first got involved with it. So yeah, back in 2019, so sort of 3.5 years ago. And since then we've really been pushing the project along. We now have a whole kind of articles section, so people can come along and cross-post their content onto Laravel IO. So we have this kind of centralized location for people to discover Laravel related content.
Okay.
So yeah, it's really a community tool. One of the main things behind it is it's a completely open source project. So for people who are new to Laravel and want to know how to structure their Laravel applications, the idea is that they can come along to GitHub and look at the source code and really understand how a real world Laravel application is put together.
Amazing. So I know that like Laravel IO is a forum where people can ask questions, but we also have the Laracast forum. So it is really popular Laracast forum. So how Laravel IO is different from Laracast forum, or is it, if it is similar, to then why we need another forum for, especially for Laravel?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm not 100% sure of the chronological order of where things and how things happened. I think Laravel IO was the first forum to kind of the first Laravel forum to hit the market. And then I think Laracast came out and Jeffrey kind of released a forum as part of that. So I guess it's just two separate locations that you can go to request help from people. I mean, Laravel IO has 50,000 members. It's fairly significant. I think we have 18,000 threads. And obviously all of that content, regardless of whether it's on Laravel IO or whether it's on Laracast, is all indexed. So, you know, any good search engine is going to be able to help people discover that content. So
Amazing.
I don't think it's necessarily, or I don't think it's in any way about two things competing with each other. It's just about giving people the options to find the content that they need.
Right, right. So if I have any query, I can go on Laracast or I can go on Laravel IO, right?
Exactly that, yeah.
And anywhere, or even I can ask like anywhere. So it's basically the same.
Yeah, so you have to have an account for both of them, but then once you have an account, you can log into the forum
it's
and ask questions.
not directly connected, but there are two different forum for a same purpose.
Yeah, exactly that.
Good one. So you said it's a open source project. So is it open source from the like initial days?
Yeah, I believe so. Even before Dries took over, I think it was the idea of the project was always to be a learning opportunity for people. So I don't think it was ever private. I think the project has always been public.
Okay. So if it is an open source project, that means I can use it for my website also, or
I mean, if you wanted to, you could. No, you could pull down the source code and host it yourself if you wanted to.
Wow, it's really great that I can use it and I can learn from the code you and Grace and all people have contributed to that. So it's how many contributors? Do you remember how many contributors we have?
100 contributors. 100 contributors and 604 forks. So we're doing pretty well.
Oh my god! Wow, it's really great, really popular.
Yeah, it's very popular.
Okay, so now I have a lot of questions with Laravel IO, and as you said, like it's open source, like questions popping in my mind. So like what's your role as a maintainer? What actually you do as a maintainer? So you said there are 100 contributors. So are you managing the contributors or seeing the PRs or actually writing code, adding features? What you do on that Laravel IO?
So predominantly so it's Dries and I who are the two main contributors now. Dries predominantly does the triage of pull requests and stuff from the community. So he'll look into them, see if it's something that we think is good for the platform, and then do reviews of the pull requests, feedback to people. That's the other thing that we like as a kind of learning opportunity, is that people can submit pull requests and learn about that whole process as well. Because I think for some particularly new developers, that's a whole new thing that they may not be used to doing, and it's a really friendly place to come along and kind of start learning that. So Dries does most of the triage. If it's a particular part of the code base that I've worked on, he may hand that over to me to look into in more detail. And typically I'm been building out a lot more of the features, less so in the last few months, but prior to that I've been doing quite a lot of features. So for instance, the articles section where people can come and cross post their content was something that I put together.
Wow, that's really great. So is that repository, obviously this is a not invalid question, but you will have the tests for that, like feature tests, integration tests, unit tests, most of them?
Exactly, yeah. So it's really, really well-tested code base. So again, another learning opportunity for people who aren't used to
I'm
writing.
really excited to look into the code base after this podcast, because this is a thing. Like when I have started learning Laravel, the first thing I was doing is like go to the Sparky packages and look into that, dig into the code base and see how they have created things, how they are structuring the migration and the code, everything. But since this is a full-fledged application which is running live, this is really a great learning experience for everyone who want to dig into the professional part of how you can create or work on a Laravel application. Great.
Absolutely. And it's great for us as well, because we don't get everything right every time. So sometimes, we might have an inefficient query in the code base that somebody stumbles across, and they're able to come along and resolve that issue for us. That's just kind of an arbitrary example, but it's real kind of testament to how open source works, in that
Yeah, exactly.
we can offer something for people as a learning opportunity, but also people can contribute back and make Laravel IO better over time.
Right. That's really, really nice. So I will look into the code base of Laravel IO after this podcast for sure. But let's move to the next thing in our list, which is a book you have written about the building a chatbot with Laravel and Botman. Tell me about that, and what is this? How this is useful for the Laravel people?
Yes, it's a long time ago that I wrote that book now, and I kind of did it in collaboration with Laravel News. I don't even remember what year that would have been. I mean, it was probably probably 2017, 2018, that kind of time. But at the time, it was of interest to me, and the Botman framework, which was produced by Marcel, one of the kind of big Laravel community members, was something that I was dabbling with in my spare time, and I decided it would be a good opportunity to kind of teach others about that. So the idea of the book was, it was really a guide from having no knowledge of chatbots into being able to build a chatbot with your Laravel application. So everything from installing the package to wiring up different channels such as Facebook Messenger and Telegram, all the way to deploying it. I mean, they weren't particularly, or the book didn't go down the realms of really complicated chatbots. It was more kind of a back and forth kind of conversation-based chatbot, but it really gave users an understanding of how to do that. Okay. But it's not something that I've updated in a long time. So yeah, I'm kind of plucking from the depths of my memory bank.
But why a book? Why not a course? Because there's a visual learners more than like
yeah readers.
I
think at the time, and probably even to this point, I feel more comfortable writing than I do streaming or being on video. It's something that I'd like to do more of, or at least start trying to have a go at. But yeah, I feel like I'm more comfortable writing than I am. It could have been a series of blog posts, but at the time I writing a book was something that I wanted to do,
Right.
and so I took the opportunity to do it at that point.
Okay. So if now you have to write another book, do you have any topic in your mind, and like on which topic you want that there should be a book, or if I get time, I'm going to write it?
Yes, so I'm big into serverless at the moment. I work on Vapor at Laravel, and so it's a topic that I'm really interested in and enjoy learning about. I think I have a lot to offer in that space, and so it's something I'm considering at the moment. It probably won't be a book, but I'm considering some sort of series of content that will kind of help people get a better understanding of.
Right.
My expertise is around AWS, so around AWS services and which ones to stitch together and how they can all work together to kind of. I think it's a difficult subject for people to understand, and I think I can do is a place for me to help people understand how these things stitch together and how they work, and that's actually without wanting to give too many spoilers away. That's what my talk is going to be roughly around at Laravel.
So you revealed the title. Good. No issue. So tell me about, like, if I have to write a book, so what should be the thing, or what should be the like list of the things I need to keep in mind to write a book, or how do I start like writing a book on any topic?
So that's a great question. I think you need a really good understanding of the problem you're trying to explain to people, the problem you're trying to solve through the course of your book. And by having that really clear picture up front, I think you can then start by writing a skeleton of what you want the structure of that book to look like. So even if that's just chapter titles, or it's just, if you're not as far as chapters, it's just an idea of the content that you want to cover. And then I think it becomes more straightforward to kind of flesh out those details. So I think, that my main piece of advice would be to have a really clear understanding of what it is that you want to do before you start writing it. Don't just go flying in to start writing, because I think you'll lose some coherency. I don't even know if that's a word actually, but the book, the final part of the final outcome of the book will be less coherent if you go down that route than if you try to tell the story through the structure of the book.
Okay. So first you need to create a skeleton of what actually you want to teach on that book, and then write whatever comes in your mind in the flow.
Yeah, I think so. If we take the chatbot book that I wrote, I spent a lot of time planning what I wanted to be in it, and then actually producing the content. I wrote a good majority of it, and I had 2 flights, one to New York and one back from New York, and I'm really good at working on flights. Like, for something about it, there's no distraction, there's no internet. So I just had like 12 hours of real good focus time, and most of the content I was actually able to write. But the key part there was planning what I wanted to be there in the first place.
Okay, good one. Yeah, so I'm going to follow this like steps of writing a book. Have
you got a book in mind? Is that something you want to do?
I've created many courses on different topics. Even the most successful course I have created is on Laravel, which is called In-Depth Laravel, and I'm planning to create the next version of it before this like Laracon India, but I'm not sure if I can do that in a very short span of time, but we'll try for sure. So I have created many courses, but I want to try and write book, because as I said, like, there are people who are not visual learners who want to read things and understand it. So for those audience, a book will be a better option.
Do you like to consume ebooks? Sorry, this is a slight tangent, so tell me if we're going off topic too much. But
no,
do you like
okay.
do you like to consume ebooks? Is it something you enjoy?
Yeah, I don't like ebooks. I like physical books. You can see all the books I have. So I like to hold the book. If I'm not holding the book, I can't feel it. So I have tried many ebooks. I already have a collection of different ebooks. So when I see on my like mobile phone or tablet or even on desktop, after some time I feel like let's do something. So it's like distracting thing. But when I'm holding a physical book, it's like, okay, I am going to read this. This is in my hand, and there is a one-to-one connection. Plus, when you have a physical book, you can write it on that book. If you have you can underline, you can write the like definition of anything, you can fold the fold the page. You have a lot of option, which is connected to your mind, your hand, physical touch, which I believe connects the content to your brain more than the ebook. That's what I feel. That's why I'm not a ebook person.
I mean, everything that you've just said, I couldn't agree with more. I have tried all sorts of different devices for consuming ebooks, and there is nothing that compares to a physical book.
Exactly.
With that in mind, if you do produce a book, will you try and do like get it published and have physical copies, or will it be an ebook?
This is I think a different thing. Consuming a book and selling a book is a two different task. So when I have to sell a book, I believe ebook sells much better than a physical book. So if I ever will going to write a book, I'm going to sell it as an ebook. This is because I'm writing for teaching, but obviously I want to make money because I have spent so much time, energy, and my skill on that. So I have to make money, and for that, instead of going with the physical book, I will publish it as a ebook. But if people want, and if it gets successful, then we can move with the physical also.
I only ask because it's a project that I've had in mind for a long time. Is to make, I guess, I don't know what it's like in India for selling ebooks, whether it's different to kind of in Europe and the US, but typically people are going to go for a product like Gumroad to sell their ebook,
Yeah,
and they're going to
exactly.
use some sort of
Same.
ebook builder to turn their markdown into a book. But I know there's lots of people like us who want to consume physical copies of books. So I've had this idea for a long time. I probably shouldn't say it publicly on a podcast, but to produce some sort of ebook builder, but have the option to, when you're going through the checkout process,
Uh-huh.
to be able to select that I want a physical copy of that
Oh,
book, and
wow.
then somehow, and these are the bits I haven't really fully figured out yet, but partner with some distribution partner or printing partner to be able to say, okay, well, I want a physical copy of that book. I'm going to send the book off to that printer who's going to
Right.
print it, fulfill that order, and send it on to the customer. Because I think there's a lot of people who would much prefer to read it in
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot
I
of
love
ebooks
it.
that I've bought and never actually read because I don't feel comfortable reading them in that way. Even though I know that I really want to, really going to enjoy that content, I just don't enjoy reading books in that way.
That's really great. But there is one more thing with the ebook and the physical book. I think ebook will be like more efficient when you are having any like programming book, because you have a code snippet. You sometimes want to copy and paste to try it, than a normal book which doesn't have any code base and code snippets like that. So all the books you can see here I have is like either a motivational book, marketing book, self-help books. Very few are coding, or like one is an algorithm book. So these books sells good on the physical part as well as on the ebook part. But for technical book, I can say, or basically programming related book, ebook is a good option, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I still think I'd rather read a physical copy, but you're right, to have an electronic copy of it as well, to be able to
Yeah.
kind of interact with code snippets and stuff is
Exactly.
definitely nice.
Yeah, great. This one is a really
Sorry,
good
I took us
topic.
off
No.
tangent there.
No. It's a really good topic. I like this. So let's move now to next thing, which is related to the Laravel, obviously. So how you started learning Laravel, and what's your general learning process if you have to learn anything? How you start working on it? And first, tell me about the Laravel. How you came into this?
Yes, so I've been using Laravel now since late 2013, I guess. So quite a good chunk of time. I guess 10 coming up 10 years.
Yeah.
I was actually a Code Igniter and Expression Engine user before I started using Laravel, and I actually was at an Expression Engine conference, and one of the speakers started talking about, I don't understand or remember why this topic came up, but he started to talk about how he was putting some kind of Frankenstein project together by linking WordPress with this newfangled framework which was called Laravel.
Laravel.
And he spoke really, really highly of Laravel. So I went away from the conference and I started to use it, or started to play with it at that stage. And then I really, really enjoyed the developer experience. And I was a solo developer within the company at that point. And I started to migrate all of our stuff. I mean, this didn't happen overnight. This was over a period of time. I started to migrate everything over to Laravel from Expression Engine. And then I moved on and moved positions into another job, and that was building an application from scratch. And I took Laravel with me, and I've been using it all day, every day for the last 10 years. And it's never let me down, never got old for me, and I still enjoy using it every day.
Exactly.
So that's really how I got to where I am today in my kind of Laravel journey. With regards to how I learn, was the question Laravel specific or just generally?
No, anything, like even after Laravel, because in our IT world, you have to be constantly upgrade yourself. So for that, you have to be a learner. So how you learn things?
Yeah. So I've realized over time that I don't have time to learn everything. I think when I was younger and before I had kids, for instance, I used to think I needed to learn everything, and now I kind of spend more time picking and choosing my battles. So for instance, I guess recently the Web3 craze, I didn't particularly find it interesting. That's not to say that it's a bad thing. It just wasn't something that interested me, so I didn't take the time to learn it. But things that I do like to learn, or things that I will learn, I think my learning style is I'll find as much resource as I can that helps me to get started. So to help me find a starting place. And then once I've kind of got the basics, I just then want to do my own thing. I want to immerse myself in that code and figure it out for myself. And that's how I learn best. For me personally, that's what makes things stick. If I'm struggling and I need help, I'm sort of a visual learner, so I'll probably try and look for video resources rather than it's kind of counterintuitive to what I said earlier, because if I'm going to explain something to people, I like to write it. But if I'm going to consume it myself, then I'm probably going to want to watch it.
Right.
But that may just be because I don't feel particularly confident doing screencasts at the moment. And that's just because it's something that I haven't done. It's not to say that I'll never do it. It's just something I haven't done to this point. So yeah, for me, really, it's about throwing myself into it and trying to figure things out for myself, because that's what makes things stick.
Right. So I'm also a visual learner, but I believe that there is a different kind of content available for different situation. So when I want to start something, when I want to see the flow, how things will go, like any installation or any setup where we have 3, 4, 10 different things coming up together, then I prefer visual things like video, obviously, any GIF we have for doing things. So that's one thing when you want to learn things in a flow. But when you're searching for very specific thing, I believe that text-based content is really powerful, because you can directly search and come to the point where you need this code example or any setting you just want to see. So for that thing, text-based is good. But if you want to really go from 0 to 10 or 20 or any level, then obviously visual things is really great. So every content is for everyone for different situations. So this is how I learn.
Totally agree. And it kind of takes us back to the forums again, because
exactly
that content is indexed and easily surfaceable. You don't always get the exact answer to what you need, but it often gets you a step further to where you need to get to.
Even if you have a blog with 1000 words, you can easily search between that content. But if you have a 1 hour of video, you cannot search from where things are starting, what he has done, what the instructor is saying. So that's a difficulty in visual thing against the content. But obviously, as I said, everything is for different situations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now we have ChatGPT, so
Chat GPT. So let's have a quick chat because we have just 3 minutes remaining for this session of Zoom. So let's have a quick chat on Chat GPT. Do you think Chat GPT will going to change the world, or do you think it's yet another hype thing like Web3 we have?
I think it has the potential to change the world. I have reservations about the legalities of things, and I wonder if at some point there's going to be some regulation that in some ways makes it less powerful. If we look at something like GitHub Copilot, for instance, I think when it was first announced or first released, there was a lot of people very upset that it was learning from their code bases that they'd spent, lots of blood, sweat and tears. Exactly. And I wonder how long that... And with DALL-E and stuff, people upset that their artwork is being used to train the algorithms or to train the models.
Yeah.
And I do wonder at some point whether there's going to be something that slows... I don't think it will stop it completely, but whether it slows progress because there'll be in some ways less training data available.
Right.
But I've got nothing to base that on. That's just something that's been sticking in my head for a while. But it's incredible. I mean, it's mind-blowingly good. Yeah.
So what is the first thing, or maybe the funny thing you have searched on Ask the Chat GPT?
I think I'm not that creative at asking questions, but some of the stuff, I mean, the thing that blows my mind is the way that it keeps context. So when you see people posting on Twitter that they've asked it a question, it's come back with an answer, and then they ask a follow-up question or several follow-up questions, and the whole time it's able to adjust its answer according to what their feedback has been. It's just absolutely mind-blowing.
I asked ChatGPT the first time I interacted with the ChatGPT, I asked can you send a notification to a user who is not active in Laravel, and it just written all the code for that. I was like, oh my god, how I am going to survive. It was so powerful that you can't even imagine. Really amazing ChatGPT.
Yeah. It is. It's incredible, and I'm sure they've got more stuff to come that they haven't even released yet.
So, Joe, everyone learn by doing things. As you said, you want to learn things and by doing it. Okay. So, for me, I just create a side project. If I have to, when I was learning Node, I created a side project on that. So this is my way of learning. So do you have any side project, and if yes, tell me about that.
Yeah, so I have one that's been running for several years now, which is called Jukebot. And I initially started to build that to scratch my own itch. Where I was working at the time, we had a wish to be able to collaborate internally on Spotify playlists, and our internal communication channel was Slack. So I built a bot which allows you to integrate with Spotify. You create a playlist as part of the onboarding experience, and then you have / commands in Slack that allow you to add to your playlist, remove from your playlist, play and pause and interact with basically the whole of the Spotify API, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so you can like manipulate all the Spotify thing from the Slack.
Yeah, exactly that. Oh, yeah, I think there's like 20 / commands that you can use that allow you to integrate. And yeah, it's a very cool project. I don't use it actually anymore, but it's fairly popular. I think it has like something like 5,000 users.
Wow, super.
It's free, so it's not like I'm making money from it or anything, but it's a nice thing for people to be able to use. And so it started in that way to scratch my own itch, but like you said, I can use it for learning opportunities. It is a Laravel app, so even little things like a new version of Laravel comes out, well, I've got an application that I can now upgrade and go through the upgrade process and see if there's anything in there which might be tricky for people. I work on Vapor at Laravel, so I now have it deployed in a serverless infrastructure, and now if we have stuff that I want to test, features that we're adding to Vapor that I want to test, I have a project right there and then that I can test stuff with. And it's a real world project with real users, so we kind of get that kind of that real feedback rather than when you're trying to kind of test with a dummy project, if you like.
Great.
So yeah, I think side projects are really important as kind of learning opportunities.
So is it fully built with Laravel, or it's like API or front end like?
So there's a company. So basically, the process is you go to Slack, you look in the Slack app store, and you find Jukebot.
Oh.
Slack then redirect you off to the Jukebot website, and there's a 3-step process. You log in with Spotify, so it uses Socialite, the
Socialite. Okay.
Yeah, the Laravel kind of social login package.
Yeah.
Then you choose which playlist you want, and you can create a new one or choose an existing one, and then you integrate with Slack, and then Jukebot is in there and working. So it has a front end, but that's all built in Blade. It's very straightforward. And then the whole of the back end is basically just receiving Slash commands from, or receiving webhooks from Slack, acting on those, sending a request off to Spotify to, let's say you're adding a track to your playlist, you go off, you find the track, you return that, and then you send a response back to Slack to say, hey, that's done, and it's there ready for you to see.
Okay, so this seems like easy one, but I know this is really difficult to implement.
Yeah, I mean, the hardest thing about it is you're dealing with third-party APIs, which, they have a habit of changing every now and again, catch you off guard.
Is it running with a Laravel Horizon to manage the queue, or it's directly one-to-one?
No, because it's using Vapor. It uses Amazon's SQS service for
SQS
queues.
services. Nice.
But there isn't even that much queuing, really. Sorry, go ahead.
You said you have recently migrated to Laravel Vapor.
Yep.
So
previously I think it was running on Forge. There isn't that much queuing, so I probably was using the database queue driver at the time. Because it's Slack need the response back, a response back straight away for you to confirm that you've received the webhook. So typically everything happens in the course of one request.
Wow, good one. This is a really nice idea. Like if you have something, if you are working in a different environment, you can integrate that environment with something you enjoy. So you're working on a Slack, you enjoy Spotify, you merge these two platforms and create something amazing.
And I think it's important with side projects too. I think this is one of the key things that turns a side project from something that never gets released to something that does get released. Is I think it needs to be something that you need and something that you enjoy using and scratches your own itch. Otherwise, I think it's difficult to stay motivated to continue working on that project.
Right. I've created 2 side projects. So one is like a Twitter scheduling tool, which I call it GrowX. So initially I was like, hey, I have created so amazing side project. I'm going to publish it, make money. But I've added amazing features, but didn't get motivation after completing it. So yes, right now, like nowadays even I'm using it. Some of my friends are using that for scheduling tweets for Twitter as well as for LinkedIn, but I didn't get the motivation to like release it with the paid plan. So but after that I said, okay, if this is not going to work, I'm going to start something else. So now for last 1.5 years I'm working on a side project called MezoHub, MEZOHUB, MezoHub. It's in a simple word, you can call it an alternative to Laravel Forge. So deploying the Laravel application. But we have planned to create to make this for every backend application. And when I have started, I didn't know many things in Laravel. I didn't know how to fetch the logs from the server and show it on my UI. I did all of that things and learned so many things that now, even if this is not going to work, I'm not going to regret anything, because I have learned so many things that I will never ever going to learn by doing any other project, by reading the documentation, by doing any other things. So yeah, side project is extremely important for your life if
It
you
is
want to
something
grow,
you enjoy,
obviously.
right? So working with
Yeah,
servers and stuff is
exactly.
So you're
Exactly.
it's gonna help you stay motivated.
Exactly. So amazing things. So congratulations for your jukebot,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah.
Jukebot project, and hopefully you will do something cool with another side project. So let's end this podcast with 2 3 simple questions. So which future technology you thinks is going to change the world, or you thinks is coming to change us?
Okay, good question. I think, well, I guess I'm slightly or really excited by this, but also very terrified by this. But I think the world has a huge problem with climate change at the moment. And I think we're running out of time to do something about it at the moment. So I'm kind of intrigued to see what role technology has to play in this. I mean, if you love him or hate him, if you look at what Elon Musk has done for electronic vehicles, he has pretty much single-handedly kicked that industry on and probably expedited things in ways that nobody else could. And I think there's going to need to be more things coming out of a similar vein in order to kind of turn this crisis around. And I'm kind of so I'm hoping that happens for obvious reasons. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see where that ends up over the coming I guess decades, really.
Exactly. So you mean to say, like, technology that is going to help, or that is going to like change the environment, for the environment, I can say, that will be the real future, that will going to change us and change the future. If
exactly that.
If let's talk about the chat gpt, is if someone is using chat gpt to solve a problem that will be in favor of our environment, that will grow more than solving any other problem.
Yeah, maybe we should ask ChatGPT how to solve that problem.
Yeah, we can ask that. Good question. Right. Okay. Yeah. So that's really nice talking to you. Final question is, like, any suggestion for books or podcast for our listeners or viewers, who wherever they are seeing or listening. Any book and podcast you have in your list?
So yeah, I think there's 3 resources that I've got here which I think are really good for people. Particularly the first one for PHP developers, the Stitcher.io blog is really useful resource for learning what's coming up in PHP. I think Brent does a really nice... Stitcher.io. Stitcher.io, yeah.
Okay.
And Brent, who writes the content, does a really great job of explaining the new things which are coming to PHP. So I think for anybody looking to keep up to date on things, that's a really good resource.
Yes.
I have a podcast, or the next 2 podcasts, and they're not specifically developer related. I have a product specific podcast called the Art of Product Podcast. Unfortunately, it's been less active recently, but I really enjoy the content on there. It was previously 2 guys who are starting new products, or had started new products, and it was about kind of watching their journey and seeing the issues and the fortunes that they run into along the way, which is really interesting. They're still doing it, but the format has changed a little, and the regularity of them is a bit hit and miss at the moment.
Okay.
Good one. And then finally, a business podcast recommendation is something called My First Million.
Oh, I love that. My First Million.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really interesting content. The guys are interesting hosts, but they're so full of enthusiasm and stuff. It's kind of infectious, and some of the stories that you hear on there are very inspiring.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, those are probably my 3 takeaways, 3 recommendations.
That's really great, amazing. I love that My First Million, and the topic they pick, and how they talk about that, how they talk the insights of every like project or every big things, It's really, really insightful. People need
Definitely
to
is,
know.
and they're very, very good at. Yeah, they're very good at picking companies ahead of time that are going to do well, and they're just very, very kind of switched on and in tune with what's going on in the business world.
Right, right.
But I really listen to those because I like to mix it up a bit. So, I'm writing code all day. Sometimes I want to listen to a technical podcast, but other times I just want to. My other things that I enjoy doing are product related, so that's probably why I kind of gravitate towards those types of podcasts.
Right, right. It's really great. Amazing, amazing chat with you, Joe. So hopefully we will going to have more fun on the Laracon. Even after completing this, I have a lot of question. So I will going to ask that when we will meet at Laracon India. But for now, I need to switch off and close this podcast. Thank you for all the knowledge you have shared, and